The film would open not with a scream, but a whisper. We envision Rohan, a young artisan in a vibrant yet ancient corner of Jaipur. His hands, usually steady, shaping intricate lacquerware, begin to falter. The initial signs are subtle, almost mundane, easily dismissed as fatigue or stress. He misplaces tools he has used for years. His laughter, once warm, becomes infrequent, then hollow. The camera would linger on the dust motes dancing in the afternoon sun, filtering through the workshop window. A seemingly peaceful scene that slowly acquires a sinister undertone. The air itself feels heavier around him. A palpable change unseen, but deeply felt. His small ancestral home, filled with the scent of spices and incense, would transform. Familiar shadows lengthen unexpectedly. The gentle clinking of his mother's prayer beads now sounds like dry bones rattling. We would use sound design meticulously here. The distant call of a street vendor morphing into something guttural, the rustle of silk curtains mimicking a sibilant hiss. Rohan's dreams become vivid nightmares, filled with crumbling Spanish cathedrals and bull rings choked with dust. He speaks words in his sleep, not in Hindi, but in a language he has never learned, a harsh, archaic Castilian dialect that chills his family to the core, a language that feels utterly alien yet disturbingly familiar to some deep, forgotten part of him.
The change accelerates. One evening during a family meal, the polished silver thali before him tarnishes black at his touch. The vibrant colors of the food turn dull, as if life itself is recoiling from his presence. His eyes, once bright and engaged, become vacant, then flicker with an intelligence that is not his own, ancient, cruel, and utterly foreign. He might trace a sigil in spilled turmeric, a symbol unknown to his culture, yet resonant with a dark European history. This is not madness his family senses. It is an invasion, a defilement of something pure and sacred. The local healers and priests offer prayers, perform rituals, but the shadow within Rohan only deepens, coiling tighter. The visual storytelling would emphasize the intrusion of the alien. Perhaps a single withered marigold, a symbol of auspiciousness in India, is found inexplicably placed on Rohan's pillow, its vibrant orange turned a sickly brown, a mocking gesture. The local temple bells, meant to dispel negativity, seem to clang with a discordant, painful tone whenever Rohan is near. The vibrant tapestry of Indian life, so rich and colorful, begins to fray around him, the threads pulled by an unseen hand from across the seas. The narrative would establish a profound sense of dread, the ordinary corrupted by an invading specific darkness, setting the stage for an extraordinary intervention from a distant land, a land steeped in its own ancient fears and rituals. Now, our story moves from the sunny lands of India, where dark shadows also fall, to the plain rainy lands of Castile in Spain. This is where we meet Father Mateo. He's not a young priest, eager for a fight. No, he's a man who looks tired from many, many battles against bad things he could not see. His room is full of old books, old crosses, and little things that remind him of scary times before, like a faded ribbon from a child, or a dried flower. This job is very heavy for him. It's not something he's proud of in a showy way. It's a heavy load that often makes him feel alone. His belief in God is like a strong shield. It has some marks on it from past fights, but it's still strong. The government in Spain gets involved, but they do it very seriously and quietly, and also very officially. A secret message arrives for Father Mateo. It's not just from the church. It's from a secret part of the government that deals with other countries. They're worried about, well, strange problems spreading between countries. The first report they got talks about someone from India who seems to have a spirit inside them. And this spirit is speaking very old Spanish. The spirit knows things that only someone who knew a lot about old, forgotten Spanish stories would know. This detail, the fact that the demon seems to be Spanish, makes everyone very worried. It's not just a problem for the church, it's a strange problem between countries. It's like Spain sent something dark to another country by mistake, and now they have to try and get it back, even if they don't really want to. People know about Father Mateo. They call him El Susurrador de Sombras. That means the shadow whisperer. He's not called that because he orders evil spirits around. No, it's because he understands them, why they are sad, and what made them angry a long, long time ago. He has studied bad things just as much as holy things. The government decides to send him because they are desperate. Other priests had tried to fight spirits that weren't even this tricky, and they couldn't do it. But Father Mateo, he isn't sure he wants to go. India is so far away, and the way people there think about spirits and faith is very different from what he knows in his Catholic church. He's worried that the ways he learned to fight evil in the old churches of Europe might not work in India. Or even worse, they might mess things up because India is so different. When he finally agrees to go, it's a quiet, sad moment. He doesn't act like a big hero. He just sighs like he knows he has to do it, and says a quiet prayer. He packs a small old leather bag. Inside, he puts his cross, special oils, his book of prayers in Latin, and an old book by a writer named Cervantes. That book reminds him that people can be very strong. He's not just traveling far across the world. He's also traveling into a place where people believe very different things. We'd see how alone he is. A man with his old ways of fighting evil, going to a new and scary place to fight. He has to face a darkness that speaks Spanish, his own language, but in a country that's not his home. So his journey starts. One man, all alone, against a very old and growing darkness. Father Mateo's arrival in Jaipur would be a sensory overload, a stark contrast to the muted greys and browns of his Castilian existence. The cacophony of sounds, horns, voices, temple bells, the riot of colors in fabrics and spices, the sheer density of life all press in on him. He is a figure in black, a somber silhouette against a vibrant canvas. The film would capture his initial disorientation, his attempts to reconcile his structured, almost monastic worldview with the fluid, multifaceted spiritual tapestry of India. He observes the local customs with a respectful, scholarly curiosity, yet a profound sense of otherness clings to him.
Rohan's family greets him with a mixture of hope and apprehension. They have exhausted local remedies, and this foreign priest, with his strange vestments and solemn demeanor, represents a final, desperate chance. The cultural gap is immediately apparent. Their home, though filled with an undeniable spiritual presence, speaks a different language of faith. Deities with multiple arms, offerings of flowers and incense, the melodic chanting of mantras. It is a world away from the stark iconography of his own tradition.
Mateo feels the weight of expectation, the silent pleas in their eyes, and understands that his battle here will require more than just his ritual. It will demand a bridge of understanding. The initial interactions are marked by a careful, almost hesitant politeness. Translators facilitate communication, but the deeper nuances of belief and fear often get lost. Mateo observes Rohan's room, noting the local protective charms placed alongside the Christian cross his family, in their desperation, has also acquired. He sees not a conflict of faiths, but a testament to their universal human need for solace and protection against the unknown. He recognizes the fear in their eyes. It is a language he understands intimately, a fear that transcends cultural boundaries, a primal terror of the soul's corruption. The atmosphere around Rohan's dwelling is thick with a palpable sense of dread. Even the vibrant marigold garlands hung by the door seem to wilt prematurely. Mateo notes the subtle signs of the entity's influence, a faint, lingering scent of decay beneath the fragrant incense, a chill that has nothing to do with the ambient temperature. He understands that the entity is not just within Rohan, but has begun to permeate his surroundings, marking its territory. The challenge ahead is not merely to expel a demon, but to do so in a way that respects the sanctity of this home and the beliefs of its inhabitants, a delicate dance between two ancient worlds. The first time Father Mateo met the possessed Rohan, things got very tense, very quickly. Father Mateo, holding on to his strong beliefs and his special tools, walked into the room. Rohan was lying there, looking like he was just asleep. But you could feel something strange in the air, like electricity. As Father Mateo started saying his prayers in Latin, Rohan's eyes suddenly opened wide. But those weren't Rohan's eyes. They looked old, very old, and full of a cold, mean cleverness. And there was a tiny spark in them, like they knew Father Mateo, which was really creepy.
Well, well, a priest from old Spain. You're a long way from your broken-down churches.
The demon, speaking through Rohan, started to mess with Father Mateo's mind. It made fun of him using his own language, Spanish, and his own culture. It twisted things that were important in Spain, making them sound ugly and horrible. It talked about old, forgotten times of cruelty, about bad things happening in holy places, and about people in Father Mateo's home country pretending to be good when they weren't.
You smell strongly of church incense and your own guilt, little priest.
But Father Mateo stayed strong. His voice didn't shake as he kept on with his prayers. Still, the demon's words were like sharp, poisoned darts, trying to hit his biggest worries and the dark, old secrets of his religion. It was like the demon was holding up a dark mirror, showing Spain's own difficult history. The fight between their two different worlds got stronger. The demon laughed at Father Mateo's cross.
That little toy has no power here. Not in this old, old land where people believe in 1,000 gods.
Then, the demon started to copy Hindu prayers, but it twisted the holy sounds into something awful and ugly. It did this on purpose to make them dirty and to scare not just Father Mateo, but also Rohan's family who were listening. This creature seemed to enjoy being out of place. It used the fact that it was from Spain as a weapon here in India, like someone from another country invading and being proud of doing wrong. It was a fight of strong wills, a fight with words, and a fight about who they were deep down, their cultures. Father Mateo was shaken because the demon knew so much about him and attacked him with such hateful words. But he kept going. He knew what the demon was trying to do. Get him off track, scare him, and make him doubt himself. He didn't get angry. Instead, he spoke with the calm power of his job as a priest. His Latin prayers were like a steady beat against the demon's wild shouts. He could feel the demon's ancient power, but he also sensed something else, something strange. A very deep anger, almost like sadness, that was connected to its Spanish past. This first fight showed them what they were up against. The enemy wasn't just some random evil thing. It was a smart, hurt being from Father Mateo's own part of the world, and now it was causing terrible trouble in a different land. Section 5. Weaving Cultural Threads, Spanish Folklore and Indian Mysticism. The narrative delves deeper into the intricate dance between the two cultures, as embodied by the demon's taunts and Mateo's struggles.
Your saints are no different from their 1,000 gods, priest. Just different masks for the same old fears. Your Latin is as dead here as the empire it served.
The entity, whom we might call El Olvidado, the Forgotten One, begins to weave specific elements of Spanish folklore into its terrifying manifestations. It might describe, with chilling accuracy, the layout of a long-abandoned monastery in the Pyrenees, or whisper tales of a cursed lineage from Andalusia, details that resonate with Mateo's own scholarly knowledge of Spain's hidden, darker histories.
Your saints are no different from their 1,000 gods, priest.
These are not generic demonic threats. They are culturally specific, designed to strike at the heart of Mateo's identity. Simultaneously, Mateo, in his quiet moments of reflection, finds himself increasingly drawn to the Indian spiritual context surrounding him.
Your Latin is as dead here as the empire it served.
He observes Rohan's mother quietly chanting mantras, her fingers tracing intricate yantras for protection. He learns of local spirits and protective deities from the family's hesitant explanations. While his own ritual remains rooted in Catholic dogma, he starts to perceive echoes, common threads of humanity's age-old struggle against darkness, woven into the fabric of these unfamiliar traditions.
Your saints are no different from their 1,000 gods, priest.
He might find an unexpected parallel between a Spanish saint's legend and an Indian demigod's tale, a shared archetype of protection and sacrifice. The demon, sensing Mateo's subtle shift, attempts to exploit this.
Your saints are no different from their 1,000 gods, priest. Just different masks for the same old fears. Your Latin is as dead here as the empire it served.
It tries to pit one culture's spiritual arsenal against the other, to create chaos and division. It might even try to speak it through Rohan in a twisted mimicry of Sanskrit, further horrifying the family and attempting to alienate Mateo from them completely. The tension lies in whether these cultural elements become weapons of division or, unexpectedly, points of connection. Mateo, however, begins to see beyond the demon's provocations. He understands that the entity, for all its Spanish knowledge, is now trapped within an Indian host, in an Indian environment. He starts to wonder if elements of this land, its sacred geography, its unique spiritual vibrations, might hold a key that his purely Spanish rites lack. He doesn't seek to syncretize in a theological sense, but to become more aware, more respectful of the spiritual energies of the place. This subtle opening, this intellectual and spiritual humility, could be a crucial turning point. An unexpected weapon against a demon rooted in the arrogance of its own singular bitter history. As days turn into nights, Rohan's condition deteriorates alarmingly. Rohan's physical form begins to show the strain of the indwelling entity. His skin becomes pallid, his eyes sunken and ringed with dark circles, his body unnaturally contorted at times. The vibrant young artisan is fading, replaced by a vessel of pure malice.
It's like he's slipping away from us, every single day.
The room itself grows colder, the shadows deeper and more animated, seeming to writhe on the walls as if alive. Objects might levitate briefly or shatter without cause, stark expressions of the demon's growing power and impatience. The entity, El Olvidado, becomes bolder, its manifestations more frequent and violent. It no longer waits for Mateo's engagement, but erupts spontaneously, its Spanish curses and blasphemies echoing through the small home, terrifying Rohan's family.
Help me, please, help me, in a moment of clarity.
Silencio, this body is mine.
There are moments when Rohan's true consciousness seems to break through, his eyes filled with terror and a desperate plea for help, only to be brutally submerged again by the sneering presence of the demon. These brief, tragic glimpses of the real Rohan serve to heighten the stakes and Mateo's resolve, reminding him of the innocent soul trapped within the monstrous charade.
I can see him in there, just for a moment. Then he's gone again.
The danger escalates beyond Rohan. The demon begins to subtly influence those around him. His mother starts having disturbing nightmares, echoing the Spanish phrases Rohan utters. The translator becomes jumpy, misinterpreting words, his fear palpable. El Olvidado aims to isolate Mateo, to break the fragile bonds of trust he has formed with the family. It whispers insidious suggestions, preying on their fears that this foreign priest and his alien rituals might be making things worse, or that he is somehow in league with the Spanish entity that plagues their son. A subtle but potent psychological warfare.
Maybe this isn't helping.
Mateo himself is not immune. He experiences vivid, disturbing visions, his own church in Spain, its altar desecrated, familiar faces from his past contorted in agony. El Olvidado is probing his mind, seeking his deepest fears, his spiritual vulnerabilities. The priest's weariness deepens, the lines on his face more pronounced. He spends his nights in prayer and study, seeking a weakness in this increasingly powerful foe.
You can't save me, priest. You can't even save yourself.
The film would convey a growing sense of claustrophobia and desperation. The feeling that time is running out, and that the entity is on the verge of completely consuming Rohan, body and soul. The battle is becoming a siege, with Rohan's soul as the besieged fortress. The decision for the final, prolonged exorcism rite is made amidst an atmosphere of grim urgency. Rohan is fading fast, his life force dimming. Father Mateo, recognizing the limitations of a purely dogmatic approach in this unique context, makes a subtle but significant shift in his preparations. While the core of his ritual remains the sacred Latin rite of the Roman Church, he incorporates elements of respect and acknowledgement for the spiritual space he is in. He doesn't abandon his tradition, but allows it to breathe within the Indian milieu, a silent nod to the ancient energies of the land.
Father, will this really work? Can we save him?
He requests Rohan's mother to continue her prayers, her mantras, in an adjoining room, not as a competing ritual, but as a complementary spiritual shield. He asks for symbols sacred to the family, perhaps a small bowl of Ganges water, a tulsi plant to be present, not as objects of his own worship, but as anchors of faith for Rohan and his kin. This is not syncretism, but a pastoral sensitivity, an understanding that faith in all its forms, can create a bastion against the profane.
Mother, keep praying, please.
The preparation is meticulous, a quiet storm before the tempest. Mateo fasts and prays, his focus intense. He reviews his ancient texts, searching for any forgotten lore about demons of Spanish origin, their specific weaknesses, their particular vanities. He instructs the family on their roles, to remain steadfast in their own faith, to pray for Rohan's soul, to not succumb to fear or the demon's provocations.
We must stay strong for Rohan.
The house is cleansed with incense that is both traditionally Catholic and distinctly Indian, the mingling scents a metaphor for the delicate balance being sought. The air is thick with anticipation, a sacred and terrifying silence before the inevitable confrontation. The demon, sensing the impending climax, reacts with increased ferocity. It causes the house to tremble, whispers threats in both Spanish and broken Hindi, trying to shatter the fragile peace.
Your gods cannot save him, nor can yours, priest.
But Mateo, drawing strength from his renewed sense of purpose, and perhaps from the quiet, unwavering faith of Rohan's family, remains undeterred. He is no longer just a Spanish priest in a foreign land. He is a conduit for a more universal battle against darkness. His arena now subtly sanctified by threads of two ancient traditions. The stage is set for a confrontation that will test not only his faith, but the very essence of cultural and spiritual resilience. The exorcism scene itself will be a raw, visceral, and terrifying ordeal. The room is dimly lit, candles flickering erratically, casting long dancing shadows that seem to writhe in concert with Rohan's tormented body. Father Mateo stands as a bulwark, his voice, though strained, resonating with the power of the Latin rite.
You are weak, priest. You cannot defeat me.
Rohan, or rather El Olvidado, thrashes against his restraints, his voice a cacophony of snarls, pleas, and blasphemies in Spanish, taunting Mateo with his failures, his fears, the sins of his homeland. The visual language would be intense. Close-ups on Mateo's sweat-streaked face, his knuckles white as he grips his crucifix, contrasted with Rohan's inhumanly contorted expressions. The battle is not merely spiritual, but almost physical.
Please, make it stop.
Objects fly across the room. A cold wind howls through the sealed windows, and the temperature plummets. The demon manifests its Spanish origins in disturbing ways. The scent of burnt incense mixed with the faint metallic tang of blood, reminiscent of a bullfight. Shadowy figures in archaic Spanish garb, seeming to flicker at the edge of vision. Rohan's body levitates, arches impossibly, as El Olvidado fights with the desperation of an entity clinging to its stolen sanctuary.
You cannot banish me. I am eternal.
Mateo counters with holy water, which sizzles on Rohan's skin as if on hot iron, and the relentless recitation of the prayers of expulsion. The cultural elements come to a dramatic head. As Mateo chants in Latin, Rohan's mother's voice can be heard from the next room, a steady stream of Sanskrit mantras, a counter-melody of faith.
Silencio. Your gods cannot save him from me, nor can yours, priest.
But the combined aura of prayer, the focused intent from two different spiritual wells, seems to create an unbearable pressure on the entity. The visuals might show faint patterns, like those of yantras or mandalas, subtly overlaying the Christian iconography, a fusion of sacred geometries. The expulsion is a violent, agonizing crescendo. Rohan's body convulses, a final terrible shriek tearing from his lungs, a sound that is both demonic and heartbreakingly human. A black viscous substance might ooze from his mouth, or a shadowy form might be seen wrenching itself free, dissipating like smoke. The room suddenly falls silent, the oppressive atmosphere lifting. Rohan collapses, limp and exhausted. But his eyes, when they flutter open, are his own, confused, pained, but undeniably Rohan. Mateo, trembling and drained, makes the sign of the cross. The battle won, but the cost etched deeply on his weary face. The immediate aftermath is one of profound relief and utter exhaustion.
Rohan, you're back.
In the quiet aftermath, as Rohan slowly recovers, a lingering unease would permeate the narrative. Father Mateo, while relieved, feels that something is not fully resolved. The demon, El Olvidado, was undeniably Spanish, its knowledge of Spanish history and folklore too precise. But why India? Why this particular young man? The conventional explanation of a wandering, opportunistic entity feels insufficient for the specificity of its cultural markers and the intensity of its rage.
Why me? Why us?
This question would lead Mateo to a final, unsettling discovery, the film's concluding twist. He might find a small, overlooked object among Rohan's belongings, something that seemed insignificant before. Perhaps an old, tarnished silver locket Rohan inherited from a distant, forgotten ancestor. An ancestor who generations ago had traveled to Spain. Or perhaps a detail in El Olvidado's rantings, a specific name or place in Spain, previously missed in the heat of battle, now clicks into place with a piece of local Indian history Rohan's family mentions in passing.
This locket, it's been in my family for generations.
The connection would be subtle, almost an archaeological find, linking Rohan's lineage directly, albeit anciently, to Spain. The twist could be that El Olvidado was not just a random Spanish demon, but an ancestral spirit, a like entity tied to Rohan's bloodline through this forgotten Spanish connection. Perhaps it was the spirit of a wronged Spaniard whose fate became entangled with Rohan's ancestor, and it lay dormant for generations, only to be awakened by some emotional or spiritual crisis in Rohan's life. Its Spanishness was not an arbitrary choice of persona, but its very essence, its unresolved trauma.
It was always with us, in our blood.
It wasn't invading India so much as following a bloodline back to a place it never knew, its rage amplified by its displacement. This revelation would reframe the entire conflict. The exorcism was not merely the expulsion of a foreign demon, but the tragic culmination of a centuries-old story, a sorrow that transcended geographical and cultural boundaries. El Olvidado was not simply evil, but a lost, tormented soul seeking a resolution it could never find. Father Mateo, leaving India, would carry not just the weariness of the battle, but the profound understanding that the tendrils of history and pain can stretch across continents and generations, binding us in ways we seldom comprehend.
Thank you, Father, for everything.
The final shot might be of the Spanish locket, now resting on an Indian shrine, a symbol of two worlds unexpectedly and sorrowfully entwined.